This is LBC from Global, leading Britain's conversation. The Nigel Farage Show.
So we're told tomorrow is going to be the big reshuffle, the first major one that Theresa May has conducted as Prime Minister. Perhaps up to half a dozen of existing ministers, now the ones thought to be dead wood, will be cleared out of the way, and a new, diverse, exciting team, we're told, to be put in its place. Well, joining me to explain this and the background is Theo Usherwood, LBC's political editor. Good morning, Theo.
Very good morning, Nigel.
So what's the background of this? What's the story?
The background to this, Nigel, is that after what happened at just before Christmas with the when it came down to Theresa May going to Brussels, she now is in a more secure position, having bounced on to phase two. Of course, then what happened with Damien Green having to resign as the Cabinet Office Minister, so prompted questions of who's going to replace him as the de facto Deputy Prime Minister. Theresa May deciding to put off that decision. Now, in terms of who's not moving, we're pretty sure that Boris Johnson, the Foreign Secretary, Philip Hammond, the Chancellor, Amber Rudd, the Home Secretary, they're going to stay in post, as will David Davis, the Brexit Secretary. But looking down the rung, so to speak, Justine Greening, the Education Secretary, she's thought to be vulnerable. She tweeted yesterday that school standards are rising. And there's a feeling, Nigel, that what she really done while she's been in that job, and that Theresa May can simply demote her or sack her even without ruffling too many feathers. And then, of course, Greg Clark at Business, he also falls into that category. Another vulnerable person is the Tory party chairman, Patrick McLaughlin. He's been widely blamed for the election campaign failing to deliver, and he's expected to lose his job as the Tory party chairman. In terms of who's going to replace him, somebody widely tipped, very much liked on the Conservative backbenches, James Cleverly, a former member of, a Tory member, of course, of the London Assembly, risen through the ranks. And there's a feeling, Nigel, I think from the 2015 intake in particular of Tory MPs, that really now it's their turn to have a go at the top jobs. And it's no good Theresa May simply bagging the jobs for those who've been at the helm, at the top of the party for, under David Cameron. It's time to give some fresh blood a go at running some ministries.
And of course, it's worth remembering, isn't it, that it's not just Damien Green who's left the cabinet over the course of the last couple of months. She also lost the Defence Secretary, Michael Fallon, and indeed Overseas Development Minister Priti Patel. So three have gone from the cabinet already. So if she changes another six tomorrow, that's sort of, over a third of the cabinet will have changed in a short space of time.
Yes, that's quite right, Nigel. But the received wisdom, and I think this also speaks to the fact that, the commentary on Theresa May's position has been wild, to say the least. Just before Christmas, just before that renegotiation, when it was all looking dicey with the DUP, she was on her last legs, so to speak. And then, of course, she secured that deal with Michel Barnier and Jean-Claude Juncker to bounce on, as I said, to move on to phase two trade talks. And suddenly she's immovable from number 10. But the feeling, generally, it's now considered that she's in it for the long haul, and if she can, secure some sort of deal, then that will, of course, that goes well for her. But the point is that because she's in that position of strength, she can now make the changes. But her position is not so strong that she could dare to tinker with the very top jobs.
And funny, Theo, sort of a lot of speculation that there won't be many middle-aged, middle-class white males advanced in this, that it's going to be the diversity reshuffle. Yes,
very much so. James Cleverly, as I said, he's from the black and ethnic minority community, so he ups that intake, so to speak. Women to look out for, people like Maria Caulfield has done very well on the backbenches. And Theresa May would want to be seen not to simply put in white middle class traditional Tory MPs. She wants to make this a dynamic cabinet. She wants to look ahead, and also it's a chance for her Nigel, to give some fresh talent a runner, running a job or running a part of a department. And if she can do that, then she'll keep a good section of her backbenchers, as I say, I'm referring to the newer intakes 2015-2017, much happier because they'll feel as if they have their cohort in key positions.
A busy day in Westminster for Theo Usherwood. We thank you for joining us this Sunday morning. Theo Usherwood, their LBC's political editor, explaining that about 6 people are likely to lose their jobs. Well, the Tory party do have a problem. They believe they have an image problem. It's been leaked that their membership has now sunk to 70,000 people. It's incredible. When David Cameron became leader, there were 250,000. And if you go way back to the 1950s, about 3 million people were members of the Conservative Party. But I would suggest to Theresa May the problem that she has with membership, the problem that she has perhaps in the country, isn't so much that it's too posh and it's too old and it's too white, although that may be a problem. The real problem is no one knows what they actually stand for, because half the cabinet disagree with the other half of the cabinet. So the strategy that the Sunday Times have outlined is they think that they will try to lose the pale, male and stale image and to have a really new, diverse group that represents the country. Let's hope she doesn't make mistakes like appointing to people to positions like Lord Adonis, who, of course, was appointed by her to head a big government quango. I'm sure she won't. What's missing? What's wrong, you may ask me, about more women in the cabinet, more ethnic minorities? Do you know what never gets mentioned? Class. Never even gets talked about. And this, in some ways, is a bigger problem for the Labour Party than it is for the Conservative Party. Fascinating. If you go back to 1964, nearly 40% of Labour MPs would genuinely be classed as having working class backgrounds, having worked in manual labour in some way. That is now 7% and falling fast. And yes, sure, I know there are fewer people involved in manual labour, but who can doubt how middle class the Labour Party has become and how little of a look-in working class people get in these reshuffles. Also, I think the key to who she appoints should not be based on ethnic origin or sex. I think what she needs to find are people that are capable, find some people with real experience of the world, preferably 1 or 2 who've worked in the private sector, and get people who can communicate a message, because half of them come on these shows on LBC or they appear on the BBC on the telly and they're interviewed for a couple of minutes and you're left none the wiser at the end of it as to what their opinion really is. I think that's what she needs, and I believe that's far more important than picking people because X% of the population is this, that or the other. I think there's a danger that that becomes tokenism. Let me know what you think by calling 0345 6060 973. You can, of course, text to 84850 and you can tweet using the hashtag Farage and LBC at LBC. And we have a new caller from Tiverton in Devon, Jim. Good morning, Jim.
Good morning, Nigel. How are you?
So what do you want to see from the reshuffle tomorrow, Jim? I'm fine.
Well, you stole a bit of my thunder, Nigel.
Oh, sorry.
That's great. No, that's great because you gave me a very good lead-in, really, and thank you for that. I'd just like to see people who, one, have experience, for instance, in defence. Why don't we have an ex-military man in there? There's an idea. Call me a bottle specialist, but, you know...
I mean, Jim, come on. I mean, next you'll be making some ludicrous suggestion, like someone that's run a business should be in charge of, should be Chancellor of the Exchequer.
Well, funny old thing, yeah. Wouldn't that be a crazy idea, really? And in fact, you know, let's take that apart. Let's assume that we might put people in that have experience, and that would be novel and perhaps advantageous. I'm a businessman myself, that would work. My CFO is an ex-finance guy. Funny old thing. Don't know why, but there you go. You know, there's one thing. How about also, we put a couple of generic skills in there, like integrity, like humility, like having morals, so I don't have to sack you within 6 months, that actually care about the will of the people. You know, Nigel, I actually was a Remainer at the beginning, and the more and more I saw the bullying that happened, I realised I need to look into this a lot more. I did have a number of export businesses, great, I still have, And I realised suddenly that I didn't really understand the country that I was looking at. And once I looked at the facts, and I decided I'd just look at facts, I realised that we were all being duped, and that's why eventually I supported the Brexit.
OK, well, that's kind of, Jim, that was kind of the previous hour's debate, but thank you for that. I mean, Jim...
No, but the point I wanted to make, Nigel, was, the point I wanted to make, so let's have a few more ministers that are Brexit supporters, or that will support the will of the people, because that's what we need to do, and that will make us go into Brexit in a strong position, supported with each other, and supporting Theresa May, provided that she has that same aim, and I'm not convinced she has.
Well, I'm pleased you've raised that. I deliberately kept it out of my little analysis a moment ago, but I've sort of joked on this show over the last few months, Jim, that what she needs to do is either sack all the Leavers or sack all the Remainers. Because, I mean, the spectacle we had last summer and last autumn of Boris Johnson and Philip Hammond contradicting each other on everything virtually every week just looked ridiculous. But, Jim, I agree with you. No more Lord Adonis's. You know, if she is the government that's going to deliver Brexit, she needs people that actually believe in it. And I think that is absolutely right. That is the political priority for this country. And if, as it looks, that Tony Blair is gradually beginning to coax the Labour Party towards a position where at the next election it will campaign for us to stay at least in the single market and customs union, then the Conservative Party had better work out what it is. And if it's not pro-Brexit, frankly, it won't be for anything. Jim, I thank you for your call, and some really novel ideas from Jim there. That people who've actually done stuff like been NHS doctors might have a go at running the health department. I'm sure most of you would agree with that. One of my constant criticisms of people in the European Parliament and indeed here in London is that so many people with very senior positions in public life in our country have never had a proper job in their lives. I'd like to see more of those people in British government, in ministerial positions and in the cabinet, and I guess tomorrow give Theresa May a great opportunity to do that. You're listening to the Sunday edition of the Nigel Farage Show, exclusively on LBC. It's 11:15. Tomorrow it's going to be the diversity reshuffle. That's what we're told. White, middle-class, middle-aged men in general to be booted out for people representing the ethnic communities and more women to be brought in. And you know what? If they're all competent, capable, have experience of the real world and are good at communicating their message, then I say fantastic. But it just depends. What are the key criteria? Are the key criteria how it looks or how competent everybody is? Because remember, David Cameron, back in the sort of 2005 to 7 period, tried to modernise the Tory party for the sake of modernisation. What good it did him. Bob from Sussex, very much agreeing with Jim, our previous caller before the break. Only about 8 people in the cabinet voted leave. This is the chance to even things up a bit on the most important negotiations faced by Britain at present. Select the best, but from leavers, please, Bob says. Well, I have to say that really, over the course of the last year, it has pretty much been 2-1 Remainers versus leavers in the cabinet. And the only one of those Remainers who clearly had changed his mind, and by the way, the Prime Minister, of course, when she's asked by Ian Dale on LBC whether she's changed her mind, won't answer the question. Jeremy Hunt, to be fair to him, you know, who at the moment is very embattled with the NHS crisis, but Jeremy Hunt said he had changed his mind since the referendum. He is literally the only one. Your messages flowing in. Jen says, giving people jobs because of their colour, not their competence, sounds like a recipe for great government, very tongue-in-cheek. Pamela says, on Facebook, she should bring Jacob Rees-Mogg off the backbenches and give him a good cabinet post, especially as he's a confirmed Brexiteer. Yes, Pamela, and he's run a very successful business, which he's made a very great deal of money out of, and he can communicate a message. But I don't think he's going to get promoted tomorrow. Not because he's a 48-year-old white old Etonian. I think they're scared of him. He's really very bright. I don't think often leaders want very bright people around them. If Jacob Rees-Mogg does get promoted tomorrow, I would say it'd be a very good thing. I don't give it more than about a 10% chance. I hope I'm wrong. Elaine says it doesn't matter who she puts in. It's the civil service that run the country, so it makes no difference. Well, one of the criticisms of the Brexit negotiations and all the concessions that have been made is that indeed it's the civil service that have been leading all of this, and the Treasury and the Foreign Office hate the concept of Brexit. They did then, and they very much still do. Let's go to Uppingham, which I think is the capital of Rutland. Rob, is that right?
Yeah, it is. Yes, it is. Good morning.
Good morning from the capital of Britain's smallest county. How are you?
Yeah. Right, I'm just going to ask you to square a circle. I'm going to throw in here for you.
Yeah.
I'm a black chap. Yeah.
Yeah.
I was the deputy chair for UKIP alongside Marietta in the last elections.
Yeah.
Okay. No experience within politics. Did a reasonable job, I think. And it's on that basis that I think that at some stage, it's all right saying how the cabinet looks and its experience, etc. But at some stage, there's a lot of black people in the UK who haven't got a lot of experience. They never got a lot of experience because it's the same old, you've got to have the experience. And if you haven't got the experience, sorry, you can't come in. So how do you square that circle? Yeah,
well, Rob, I take that point. Role models are, of course, vitally important. And one of the positive reasons for making sure that you have got people from different communities in public positions is that it may well inspire many young people to think, wow, he or she can do it, I've got a chance too. So I do, Rob, fully understand that. And I'm not against Theresa May taking a few risks here and there. But, Rob, let me put this back to you. You were part of UKIP when I was leader, from the sounds of it, and
still am.
And still am, yeah. And you took on. I mean, I never, ever, as leader of UKIP, said, I want us to have X% this or X% that.
No.
I just said we want people who are good, honest people to come and help us. And do you know what happened, Rob? Is actually UKIP was an incredibly diverse party. However the media tried to portray us, amongst the black community, Jewish community, we had Muslim candidates, we had gay candidates. I mean, but I've never believed, Rob, in positive discrimination. I've always worried about the impact of that, but I do understand.
Yeah.
But I do understand the point. Unless some break through, there are no role models for others. I mean, how would you handle it?
How would I handle it? Well,
yeah.
I mean, I'm not very well educated, but it's what's inside, and I've got the drive and determination. And as long as there's never a glass ceiling, I'm pretty sure that that good people would rise to the top.
Yeah.
But currently there is a glass ceiling, I believe.
Okay, so you hope she does promote some BME people tomorrow, yeah?
Absolutely, absolutely. Take a leap of faith. I mean, not with this sort of like ticking boxes, etc. But if she can clearly see that somebody who she can justify it. That yes, they haven't got the experience, but yes, they've got the drive and the determination. Yeah, go for it.
Well, do you know what, Rob? Somebody who was not very experienced politically, because he's pretty new to Parliament, though he had a term in the London Assembly before, is James Cleverly. I'd like to see James Cleverly promoted tomorrow, but not because he's black, but because I can see he's an excellent communicator who's got a real grip of the issues. And I think, so the priority is that someone like Cleverly has got the ability, he can do it, and the fact that he's black, I think you would see, Rob, as being a bonus, because it says to other black kids growing up in London, hey, he got to the top, so can I. Rob, I thank you for your call, your support, and for everything else. Kelly is a new caller from Lewisham. Good morning, Kelly.
Hi, Nigel. I just listened to your conversation, and I personally think that there's already a case for positive discrimination in the Cabinet. I just think that it comes directly from the Bullingdon Club. I don't think it should be the case that you should see ministers, 4, 5, 6 ministers, all from the same club, same school, same university, all posted in one picture. So I understand that there is like they're calling this the diversity reshuffle, and I just think it shouldn't be phrased that way, rather than just stop discriminating against people that didn't go to Bullingdon, didn't go to Oxford, didn't go to Eton.
Yes, absolutely.
And then diversity would naturally happen anyway.
Kelly?
And that would include people from different classes as well. So I just think we shouldn't see it as a diversity hire. I think we shouldn't feed into the myth that somehow white people in this country are being stiffed and their representation's being taken away and you have to do it to tick boxes. If we see it as let's stop putting up the barriers that have stopped diversity in the first place, then it will just all happen naturally.
Kelly, I'm with you. I said that at the top of the hour. Completely missing from any of this is class and people from different backgrounds and perhaps different educational achievements. And I loathe the development of the career political class that we've seen on both sides of the political divide. Generally, you're right. A huge percentage of them go to the same schools, same universities, do the same degrees, become researchers age 22, MPs age 28, and there's too much of it, Kelly. It needs to be broken up. I thank you for your point and your call. And some quite personal messages coming in. If Boris keeps his job, Theresa May has failed before she began. Well, I'm sure for every one of you who thinks Boris should be kicked out, there's another who think he's doing a fantastic job. On Twitter, this diversity nonsense is ridiculous. Best person for the job, full stop. It should always be best person for the job. Positive discrimination is a dangerous path and a route to disaster, says Mitch. And I wonder, I've had no more feedback yet on my comments about Jacob Rees-Mogg, but my view is Rees-Mogg will not be promoted tomorrow. I could be wrong. Akhil is my next caller from Leicester. Good morning.
Good morning, Nigel. How are you doing? Sorry, first time caller.
Well, you're very welcome to the show, Akhil. Now, should she be promoting people on the basis of their ethnicity or their ability or both?
I'll come to that. I was just going to say, Nigel, I disagree with 95% of most of what you say, but I always enjoy listening to your show.
Well, thank you.
And I think that one of the issues that we have today is that most of us just want to surround ourselves with people who support our worldview. But anyway, to your question.
Yeah.
Nigel, I think you're being a bit mischievous on this issue.
Mischievous, me?
I understand why you and like your first caller, I think it was Jim, who gets so exercised by this issue. The implication, and where I say you're being mischievous, is that Theresa May, if she does appoint, take a more consideration in appointing more gender or ethnic diverse candidates, it's not the fact that it's colour or gender only. The implication you're making is that these people won't have competence.
No. Come on, that's not fair. That's not fair.
Well,
I said that James Cleverly, I thought was an excellent communicator and a well-qualified person.
But then this is a non-starter, then, isn't it? This is not. If we accept that Theresa May will be appointing people of competence first and foremost, and that's the priority. First and foremost, they will all be competent. Then whether she decides to say, right, but she will lean towards people of colour or women is a non-issue. As long as we get the competent people...
Yes, no, I'm not going to disagree with you at all. It's just that the way this has been leaked and presented to the press, we want to end pale, male and stale. It's kind of being put out rather the way Cameron tried to do his modernisations a few years ago. They didn't work for the party. Akhil, I hope this time tomorrow you and I have no disagreement at all that actually some drab career politicians have been replaced by people with real experience of life, with the ability to communicate, who are very, very capable and regardless of colour. And if that's the case, it's fine. I thank you for your call. Breaking news of an explosion at a subway station in Stockholm. Time to go to the news. It's now 11:30. Tomorrow's the big day, the diversity reshuffle for Theresa May's cabinet. She is going to get rid of the pale, male and stale image of the party, and it's going to be more diverse and more reflective, apparently, of the society in which we live. I wonder how many people from working class backgrounds will get promoted. Very few, I would wager, and we will, over the course of the next half an hour and on, bring you any more news that we get about the reports via Swedish media of an explosion at a subway station in Stockholm. So, on what basis should this reshuffle be conducted? Should there be more Brexiteers? Should there be more working class people? Should people be picked purely on ability? Or actually, would it be a good thing for British society if a few more members of the BME community got cabinet promotion? David from Norwich is on the line on this subject. Good morning.
Good morning, Lord Farage. Happy New Year.
And to you.
It should have been Lord Farage.
Yeah, well, that is not going to happen in a hurry. But I would say about as much chance of that happening as Jacob Rees-Mogg getting promoted tomorrow. But we will see. So, what do you want? What would you like to see tomorrow?
I don't, to be perfectly honest with you, Nigel, I don't think that whatever changes Theresa makes to her cabinet is going to make any difference whatsoever. I mean, they are, in essence, they're the political elite. They will do what they want, what suits them best of all. And the everyday working class man, looking like the silent majority, have got no say in this whatsoever. And that has been the case for years. I mean, look, I've said this before, but it is true. Look back to June the 23rd last year and what happened and who was the cause of it. UKIP won the referendum, and the politicians were so flabbergasted. What did they say? Listen, the British public are listening to them. We've got to get rid of them, which is what they did. You know, and I know there was a concerted effort, and they pretty well succeeded to say, done, finished history, so they can carry on and do what they want, which is why now, Nigel, you know this, the British public in the main are really, really angry about our current political system.
Yeah, I think they're getting angrier. I would agree with that. I also think, David, most people are fairly disconnected from day-to-day politics. I was just thinking to myself a moment ago, Justine Greening gets sacked. Well, no one's ever heard of her anyway.
Well, exactly.
And she'll be replaced by someone no one's ever heard of. And when you actually look at surveys, David, it's amazing that you actually take, whether it's YouGov or whoever it is, they go out, they ask 1,000 people from a sort of cross-balance of the community. They show people photographs and say, can you name this person? They couldn't name 2/3 of the cabinet. They couldn't name... I mean, honestly, I think sometimes we get this impression that all these people are huge national figures, and the fact is, actually, Joe Public just about knows more than a handful of people in British politics. So David, my real analysis of tomorrow's reshuffle is I don't think actually it's going to make a huge difference.
I absolutely agree, but it would have made a lot of difference, for instance, if you'd have been there because you knew the system in Brussels and you could have stood up and fought for it.
Well, yeah, but I'm not quite their cup of tea, David. I thank you. I must move on to Steve from Romford. Steve, good morning.
Good morning, Nigel, and belated Happy New Year to you.
And to you, dear boy. So, what do you want to see tomorrow? What great new initiative from our Prime Minister will inspire you?
As a white working class boy, I want to see Jacob Rees-Mogg installed into that cabinet, and I'd also like to see James Cleverly put in.
Yep.
And I would like to see Priti Patel brought back.
So,
because I think she's fantastic.
So you're white working class Essex man, right?
Yeah.
But you like older Tony and Jacob Rees-Mogg?
I think it's brilliant. I really do. He is such a brilliant man. I saw him on Question Time, and he absolutely just stole the show. He really was clever. And another thing I'd like to see happen, get rid of this political nonsense of BME. Black ethnic minorities, you're British. Whether you're not black British, you're not Chinese British, you're not Asian British, you are British. Regardless of your background, religion, ethnic minority, status, whatever, we are British. And I think
I agree,
once
Steve.
we start that, once we get that going, a lot of this racism and things like racism is caused a lot by political correctness. I really do believe that.
Steve, I'm with you. Going back a year or two, my press officer came from a family of Indian origin, but he was born in this country, raised in this country. Raheem, his name was. And I remember after a Question Time we'd done in Canterbury, we found the only late-night curry house we could get in Canterbury. And, of course, I ordered the hottest thing that was on the menu and a large glass of something. And we were talking about curry and what it was like and what bit of India it might have come from. And he said, well, we in our community... I said, hang on, sorry, what are you saying? He said, well, we in our community... I said, what do you mean your community? I said, where were you born, Raheem? He said, well, London. What passport have you got? United Kingdom, British passport. I said, stop talking about we and start talking about us. And I think I made him think a bit there, Steve. Steve, we need more of that togetherness and less separation, don't we?
We certainly do. And one of the most ridiculous things you can ever hear is when people talking about, these sort of things, they go, African American. They're born in America.
Yeah, the Americans have the Americans are very much about roots and where they're from, but I think they're still American and they still fly the American flag.
Absolutely.
So I would read that.
And I like to see the Union Jack be flyed a lot more in this country as well.
Well, I think in parts of Essex where you live, Steve, there are plenty of Union Jacks and lots of crosses of St George's. I thank you for your call, and Jacob, I'm sure, loves the support you're giving him. Roy is a brand new caller to the show from Brookmans Park. Good morning.
Yes, good morning. Although I live in Levy, Hertfordshire, I spent the first 30 years of my life in Finsbury Park.
Right.
I joined the Tory party in 1968. Yep. I fought against joining it, and from Margaret Thatcher, it's gone downhill. It no longer resonates or represents me or all of my colleagues, because I'm in my 80s. It just doesn't represent us anymore. I hear Michael Time come on, eating up with jealousy over Margaret Thatcher. I hear the Mayor of London keep on saying he's a British Muslim. We don't say that we're English Catholics or English Methodists. So what I'm saying, Nigel, is there is no one now that represents me or millions of us. Where do we go from here?
Well, right, it's very interesting. I said, when you joined the party in 1968, I mean, the party wasn't without its problems, because, of course, that was the year of the Rivers of Blood speech and Powell being sacked and divisions on the EEC. So it had its political problems and it had its internal arguments, but it did always, in the end, take a decision and go in one direction or the other. And I guess when you joined, it would have been well over 1 million members, and now we're told, sort of leak report tells us it's down to 70,000. I mean, let me turn this round the other way. What would you like to see the Conservative Party be, and therefore, by implication, tomorrow's reshuffle be all about?
Well, yes, look, let's appoint people on talent, but the last thing we want is a Conservative Diane Abbott, just because she's black. That's the last thing we want. We want people, and especially, what's that man's name? Cohen. I've heard him speak and spoke to him, the Conservative, I can't pronounce his name.
Kwasi Kwarteng you're thinking of?
Yeah, that's right. He's quite a talented man.
Oh, I tell you what, Roy, he is very, very bright, highly personable as well. Yeah.
So I want to see a government or ministers appointed on talent, regardless of age, ethnicity, or but what the Conservative Party still doesn't do, it doesn't represent the working class.
No, it doesn't. And Kwasi Kwarteng, who you just mentioned, I'm 99% sure that he went to Eton. So he would be quite a long... I'm just going to double check that now. No, Roy, I think where Mrs. Thatcher got her great victories from and maintained a big, active, stable membership of the Tory party. And Roy, do you know what? I was one of them, because I joined in 1978, a few years after you, where she scored with working-class Conservative votes, didn't she?
Absolutely. I mean, I was privileged to know Enoch Powell, one of the most misunderstood persons in the British cabinet. Do you know, I can remember one of the Tory, and I don't even remember his name, remember him saying to me, you're quite bright for a working class boy.
Oh.
And I looked at him and I thought, I've got the measure of you immediately, mate.
God. Can you imagine if you said that to somebody from a black or ethnic minority background, you're quite bright, but for someone that comes from that community, what the response would be? It'd be absolutely... You'd be hung out to dry, Roy, for anyone that dared to suggest anything like that, and it should be the same for people from different backgrounds. I can confirm, Roy, that Kwasi Kwarteng did go to Eton and then on to Cambridge, though he was a King's Scholar at Eton, so you never know. It may well be that his parents did not have to pay the exorbitant fees. Roy, I thank you for your call. And Roy, he may be in his 80s, but actually... One of the ways in which the Conservative Party completely failed under Cameron, they didn't win a majority in 2010 against a Labour Party that had been in power for a long time, a Prime Minister in the shape of Gordon Brown, who just simply was not having a great or happy time. If ever there was a moment for the Tories to win a majority, it was in 2010. They didn't do it because David Cameron did not appeal to working class Conservatives. Some of them voted UKIP, some of them stayed with Labour, some of them simply didn't bother to vote at all. You're listening to The Nigel Farage Show, here exclusively on LBC. It's 11:45. It's the big reshuffle tomorrow. It's out with Pale, Male and Stale. It's going to be a big new image for the Tory party that's going to revive their membership and their vote in the country. Well, that all depends who they pick, I guess, and whether they pick people on ability or simply on their backgrounds. If they do both, there'll be no complaints at all. Damien is a new caller from South Bermondsey. Good morning, Damien.
Hi, good morning, Nigel. How are you doing?
Fine. So what are you looking for from Mrs May tomorrow to inspire you?
Well, I mean, essentially, when it comes down to positive discrimination, as you've been talking about on the show, yeah. I'm not really a fan of positive discrimination, and I believe that the best person for the role should get the job. But I mean, I think the problem with that is that obviously through history we see that a lot of very well and able candidates from the ethnic minorities don't tend to be given the opportunities. So I guess there's a balancing act with regards to trying to get the best people for the role, but making sure that you have a government that represents the country and represents every group within the country.
Because it is important, isn't it, Damien, for whether it's the black community or whatever it may be, but it is important for role models to be out there, isn't it?
Of course. As you said, previously, it is necessary for kids growing up from different, backgrounds to be able to see, people in higher positions that can inspire them. But it is a problem when you have capable candidates who aren't given the opportunity to excel in those high positions. So
has Mrs May got a chance to put that right tomorrow?
There's always a chance. It just depends on whether or not she's willing to take that chance. So, I think that a government should reflect the country. And, so it's whether or not she's willing to be bold enough to say, okay, well, there are people here who are capable, who may not ordinarily get the opportunity, but, give them the opportunity to do the job.
Yeah, and lastly, Damien, tell me, you said you're against positive discrimination. Could you just explain exactly why?
No, I just believe that it can create more problems than it solves. But then again, it's a balancing act in trying to understand, how best to represent a whole group of people. So I'm just not a fan of putting someone in a role based on the colour of their skin.
No.
And I'm black myself, so. But if I was to be in a position, I'd rather be put in that position because I am good enough and I am better than all those who went for the position. But I think the problem is, I guess, positive discrimination comes into the limelight because you have people who are very, very capable who don't get given the opportunity. So obviously, people think of solutions in terms of, okay, how can we combat this? And then we have the whole positive.
Well, that's the bit we got. That's the bit we got. That's the bit we got to put right, isn't it? Rather than, as you say, positive discrimination, which can lead to a fair degree of resentment. Damien, great call. Thank you very much indeed. Nigel, the Conservative Party requires radical surgery to save it. However, wishy-washy, weak and wobbly May will probably only apply a sticking plaster to the patient, says Laura. Laura, I do agree with that. As I said at the start, I don't think this is as much to do with the age and the look of the Conservative Party. It's more to do with the fact that no one knows what it really stands for. It fights election after election, making promise after promise that don't get delivered. The country's voted Brexit. 2/3 of the cabinet's opposed to that. I think people need some sort of real direction from a political party to want to join it, and by implication to want to work for it, to want to stand for it, and indeed to want to vote for it. It's all part, I think, of the same phenomenon. Certainly my experience in UKIP was that if our membership was going up, our vote was going up as well. That's certainly what I saw. Michael is calling from Muswell Hill. Good morning, Michael.
Oh, hi, Nigel. I'd say I agree with what I think your position is, which is, the PM should be appointing the best person, the most talented people to her government, and not on the basis of colour or any other single issue. Therefore, I'm a bit surprised that you're saying we should have more Brexit MPs in government.
Well, Michael, that does appear to be a contradiction, doesn't it? That does appear to be a contradiction. That on the one hand, I've said go for ability, as opposed to background, and on the other, I've said they should sort of jump this hurdle of Euroscepticism. I think, Michael, the reason I'm saying that is because it does look to most people to be desperately confusing that a Remain Prime Minister and a Remain Cabinet is leading a Brexit process.
Look, Nigel, you either accept the principle that you appoint the best people to government, or you don't accept it. You're looking to stand in both camps at the moment. The reality is the Brexiteers are overrepresented in government because the vast majority of MPs are not Brexit supporters, and yet you've already said it's about a third of them. So you've already got more in there than is represented. So how can you ask for more and then at the same time say, oh, you shouldn't be appointing people on the basis?
Well, the referendum, Michael, the referendum has not closed the gap between the people and the politicians, and you're certainly right about that, because say the latest opinion poll showing 60% plus would vote Brexit tomorrow, and yet in Parliament it's probably only 20% of MPs who really support Brexit. So there is this great gulf between the people and the political class on this. And look, if you put me up against the wall, Michael, on this, I would say, of course, you must pick the most able people, and that is the key criteria. But I do think there's something very odd about a government committed to Brexit appointing people like Lord Adonis to run important quangos.
Yeah, I agree with that, but it's no more odd, Nigel, than the fact that the government appears to be primarily upper-class white, run by upper-class white men. That's far more odd. And I know racial inequality is not at the top of your list as opposed to Brexit, but actually, in terms of importance, that's just as important as Brexit.
No, of course it's important, and of course having a society that is integrated and where people feel they've got a fair chance, Michael, is vitally important. In fact, it's one of the reasons a lot of people from migrant communities voted Brexit, because they could see that actually uncontrolled immigration was dividing society rather than uniting it. Michael, I take your points. They are powerful ones. Ability is the most important thing. But Michael's point's a very good one, that actually Brexiteers are overrepresented because they've got a third of the cabinet compared to what's in Parliament. But that really isn't the answer. The answer is we need a politics at some point in the not too distant future that is closer to the way the country feels on a whole range of issues. David is calling from Bracknell. Good morning, David.
Yes, good morning, Nigel. Yes, not least adult training and such like. There's a complete disconnect with the political class in this country on how to skill youngsters up and
we don't
for the country.
David, don't
how are we going to go forward and how are we going to compete with the world? We don't have a skilled workforce.
David, we don't need to. I don't know what you're talking about. We don't need to train people. We don't need to train nurses. We can get them all from the European Union. That's the argument I'm hearing every week from people in Westminster.
Why they're in the pickle they're in at the moment, isn't it? They just don't listen to ordinary people anymore. There's a disconnect between the people on the ground who can see what's happening and the people who appear to be running everything.
I agree. So, David, what would you like to see Theresa May doing tomorrow to try and put some of that right?
I'd like to see her reconnect with ordinary people working in various fields, such as adult training, asking them how to best approach this issue instead of bringing in private companies who haven't got a clue what they're doing. They need to reconnect the skills and the experience of people in the field of such things as adult training and get them involved.
And what kind?
All out to a private company.
And can you think? I think a lot of people would agree with that, David, from both sides of the left-right divide in politics too.
Yes, it's not the left-right.
No, absolutely. Yeah. But can you think, David? Name me a person that could be put into the cabinet tomorrow and that could start to make these sort of arguments.
It's quite difficult, isn't it?
It's very difficult. It's very difficult indeed, as Theresa May will find out tomorrow. Because whatever she does tomorrow, there'll be 2 or 3 days of headlines and comment about it, and then it'll disappear from view. And David, I reckon that in Bracknell, if you knocked on the door of all the neighbours in your street in a week's time and showed them the faces of 6 new cabinet ministers, how many, David, do you think would know who they were?
Well, very few. This is part of the disconnect, isn't it? I mean, it's. I just can't believe the figures you gave out earlier, actually, about the Tory party, 70,000 members.
It's unbelievable, isn't it? Well, that is...
If there was a real enthusiasm for Tory policies, they should be having a membership of 3 or 4 million, not 70,000.
Peter Oborne wrote about this in the Daily Mail yesterday, and it was a leak from a guy called Stafford, who's been one of the big voluntary parts of the Conservative Party for years, and he's had pre-sight of their survey that they've conducted and count they've done. And when David Cameron was voted in as leader, and he won against David Davis, 250,000 ballot papers were issued around the country, and we knew during Cameron's years it had declined massively. And, I guess it had declined because people didn't want wind farms that cost a fortune in their backyard, and they didn't feel gay marriage was a priority given that it hadn't been in the manifesto, and there's just too much modernisation, that was how Conservative members felt. So I think the party has a massive problem. David, I thank you very much indeed. Well, as you know, I've got my bags all packed, and I should be heading off to Brussels this afternoon because I would not want to be late for meeting Monsieur Barnier tomorrow morning. And I thank all of you, the thousands of you that got involved with hashtag Ask Barnier. The 3 questions I read out earlier will be put to him tomorrow. You've been listening to the Nigel Farage Show here on LBC. I'll be back tomorrow night at 7, reporting from Brussels. Coming up at 3 this afternoon, it's Alex Salmond. But up next, it's Majid Nawaz.
Thank you, Nigel.